What's up, everybody? Ryan and Greg here, and we are about to dive into the finale episode of Season 2 of Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone.
Now, this is a major spoiler warning. If you haven't seen this episode yet, get out of here, go watch it, and then come on back here. Now, let's jump into You Might Also Like. A housewife living in a surreal suburb anticipates the arrival of a life-changing product, only to learn it comes with an unpleasant truth. This episode stars Gretchen Mol and Greta Lee.
The episode starts out with some very classic Twilight Zone music, and then rolls right into a commercial for the egg, which is this thing that's going to make everybody's life better.
And now we finally meet Janet Warren, who doesn't feel like she's all there. Something weird's going on right from the jump. She wakes up, goes downstairs. We meet Mrs. Jones, and she tells her that I think something weird's happening here. And not only that, she just, as that noise we've heard earlier, that eerie tone, that very familiar eerie tone. Well, she's been hearing it a lot, and it seems that something happens to her right after it, and she doesn't remember anything after that.
Mrs. Jones is rambling on about her allotted fulfillment hour, which is the designated time to pick up her egg. Janet's fulfillment hour is much later, and she's just beginning to sort of wonder why they're not allowed to know really anything about the egg or what it looks like or any specifics.
Mrs. Jones is trying to hush her already. She's like, no, it's all good. Everything's fine here. I want my damn egg. I don't know what it is. Again, Janet's like, hey, we don't know anything about this thing. Are you sure you want to do this? And again, this is I love the performance between the two of them right here. They're really, it's not even like they're hamming it up. It's just they know the pure consumerism, and what they're talking about here is just, it's awesome.
And
so
they're
far,
really playing the tension, the like competitive, like materialist competition, of just like there's a thing between them, like Mrs. Jones doesn't like that Janet has something that she doesn't have, or that they have the same thing, or like there's a competitive materialism that is super palpable.
And with that, Janet immediately hushes Mrs. Jones because she can hear it. Something's going on here. And we get our narrator, Jordan Peele, coming in with a very, very familiar opening.
Submitted for your approval.
Then a very anxious Janet appears in a television commercial, which has her and like the family unit gathered around the table. That leads to the husband taking the boys to the immolation station, which is like kind of like a weird sort of stadium where people just get to light things on fire.
And there's another commercial that plays right after that where it's a little girl carrying like a baby doll walking through the woods. And then she opens up a box revealing this weird looking, I'm assuming this is the egg. It's creepy. And then that's when Janet and Mrs. Jones wake up. And now we are into part 1. It's ugly. And the time is 11:30 a.m. And this is where Mrs. Jones and Janet are talking about what the hell just went down, about the dream. Mrs. Jones is still not buying any of this. She's weirded out, but she doesn't really care as much. She's just thinking about this egg, I am assuming. And Janet is telling her, hey, something weird's going on here. You should probably think twice about trying to grab this egg. Maybe we should figure out what the hell's going on. And I think I saw the egg in my dream commercial or something. And again, just like the title suggests, it's ugly.
One of the things that Mrs. Jones uses to disregard Janet is that she says that this thing that is the centerpiece for every American home couldn't also be ugly. It doesn't even make sense.
And this sparks like a little bit of a scuffle between the two as Mrs. Jones tries to leave.
Just like some of the best physical performance in the entire series.
And that's the end of part 1. It's awesome. And now we kick into part 2, Real Human Being at 12:15 p.m. Now, Janet's checking her cabinet, and it's just filled with everything you can think of. Again, another commentary. Janet grabs happiness, and now she's on the phone with her husband's secretary as she's trying to get a hold of him. Megan is telling him that not at this moment. He's a little busy, so it's a little weird that she can't get a hold of her husband or her kids or anything. So that's another sign that something's going on with her family. It may just be her, as what we've seen throughout the entire town. It looks like, even with Mrs. Jones. Now, with that said, Megan leaves her on the line, and she also talks to her about, again, the egg. And are you excited to get the egg and everything like that? It's so creepy and weird. I love it.
Why do you want your family's egg?
Because it's coming out?
So when Janet asks Megan why she wants the egg, her response is like, it's first off, it's like, it's so surface and like not very thoughtful. It's just sort of like, it's part of the like consumer malaise and depression. And, you know, you talked about this before. There's like something vaguely prophetic of 2020 in this episode. And like, you know, her response is like so subdued. It's just like, you know, she wants it because it's coming out. Like it's just coming out. And that's one reason to want it, because it's a thing that's new. And then she talks about, you know,
The world.
the bad state the world is currently in. And it's like another thing of like, I'm just basically a super depressed human being. And like there isn't not connected to anything. Moments later, she gets on the phone with the customer service rep to talk about the egg. Now she's like, you know what? I'm just going to go to the source. I got to get the more details here. And that doesn't really work out.
It's another Megan, by the way, on the phone with her.
Which is bizarre.
Yep. And also they put her on hold, and I'm pretty sure that's a Steely Dan song playing in the background. I don't know what the connection is there with this episode, but okay. With that said, after she gets off the hold, she asks them about like, hey, I just don't want this thing anymore. Can we just like cancel the egg? They tell her, okay, are you sure about that? And they just hang up on her, and obviously something weird's going on here, including just the Megans on the phone tells you that maybe she's not talking to who she thinks she's talking to. Right from there, she goes back to the baby's room, and she notices that, again, all these products, they're just straight up just the name of the product is there, like baby monitor. So now she's thinking, you know what? Something weird's going on. I think I figured it out. So she sets up the baby monitor in the room, and sure enough, we hear that music, and here we go.
We get another installment of Commercial Dream State, and in this one, Janet's in the kitchen, and it's a like paper towel commercial where she's wiping up her own tears off the kitchen counter.
And then right from there, she wakes up, checks out the video footage, and sure enough, she is floating across the room right out the window. There we go. From there, we jump into part 3, The Mad Woman in the Oxygen Tower. The time is 1:33 p.m. Janet decides, you know, let me get on the phone. Chantal. And I love how the phone number is just emojis of planets and stars. This is where she gets a reading. Her horoscope says, like, untether yourself and resist gravity. So Janet gets the smart idea to tie herself up to the armchair in her bedroom to make sure she doesn't float off or wherever the hell she's going this time, to see if she can stop it. That eerie music plays, she's knocked unconscious from it, and she's floating out the window, but this time, again, she's tethered to that armchair, and she's stuck in the tree. And this is where the episode takes another turn, as now we finally get a return of characters from the old classic episodes. The Canimets have returned.
There's 3 of them just chilling down there in the yard, and they see Janet up in the tree, and for a hyper advanced race, it's pretty funny that they start off with talking about eating her legs.
All of this leg talk is making me hungry.
Are we thinking original recipe or extra crispy?
At this point, Janet overhears this. She wakes up, and the one thing she says, of course, that we've got in, I guess, a little bit of a theme, she says,
Take me to your supervisor.
and now we jump into part 4, like the great glittering cities of your world. The time is 2:49, and what's cool about when they display the time, they also show the Canaanite language. We are now on one of their spaceships as Janet is now talking about her life prior to what we know on this episode. And we find out that she had a stillborn child. So this makes a lot more sense for what we saw earlier in her dreams. She's now struggling with this idea of what's going on. I just want to know the truth at this point. Like X-Files, just give me the truth. And these Canimets, I absolutely adore them. Feels like I'm watching the Borg, but it takes a different turn. And we meet the Queen.
The Queen is definitely in charge. Like now, we met the schlubs on the ground, but now we've got like somebody who's like a legit in charge. And even though they have a hive mind, she's clearly got like a command sort of position. And she reveals that like that they can't change their minds like humans because of their hive mind. And she also reveals that they've been like watching Earth for a very long time, since at least like the 1940s.
I love the little combo she has about not only commercials, but just about everything, how they perceived our world from just watching it on, it looks like television and radio. The one line about like the Beatles defeated the son of your god.
This is one of my favorite moments in the whole series so far, because Janet's trying to like process what the Queen is saying and respond to it. And one of the things she latches onto is the comment about how the Canimets have been watching our television commercials. And Janet says, well, we don't even watch our television commercials. We pretty much just tune them out. And she says, we've evolved. And the comeback to that from the Queen is absolutely priceless. She says,
commercials now grow in the rich soil of your unconscious minds.
That is the key to all of the weird moments we've had so far in the episode. Like, all of the commercials were her commercials in her mind.
Now, after that, the Queen confirms about the eggs. She made them herself. She's made all those eggs, apparently, and sent them down to Earth. And this is where we find out they're supposed to make everything better. Or what's the exact line again? It is, let me read it, make everything better again. Meba.
Meba.
I guess.
Get a hat.
Okay. I see what they're doing here. Now, with that said, we go from there to back on the planet where Mrs. Jones has received her egg. She's loving it, but then we hear just like ravaging through the thing. And sure enough, immediately after that, we hear just a scream and then
a fine red mist.
Great shot. Now, back on the saucer, Janet wants to go home, even though the Queen tells her straight up, hey, listen, these eggs, like I just told you a second ago, these eggs are gonna kill everyone. This is world domination. We're trying to wipe out the human race at this point because of democracy. You guys don't agree, so we're just gonna start all over here. Are you okay with that? And Janet's just like, I accept my fate. I'm just gonna go down. I want to just get my egg at this point, and so I can have something to hold for a moment. It's a great moment,
and it is like kind of a callback, as so many moments in this episode are callbacks to other moments in the season. This goes back to Human Face and other invasion episodes. There were several invasion episodes where the premise was the acquiescence of a suburban community to the invasion and reaching a point of acceptance. Before she heads out to the fulfillment center, Janet visits the daughter's room and says, it would be much better if you were coming with me today. And that ties back to that loss and grief that we saw in that other episode.
And then she heads straight over to the fulfillment center where the world is just coming apart, it looks like at this point. Women are running back and forth with these eggs. It's just chaos, it seems, but it's like this happy, weird kind of chaos. I love it. And from there, Janet just, it looks like she accepts her fate. She's smiling, looking up at the fulfillment center and runs on in to get her egg while the flying saucers are around, and it looks like this is it. The Canimets have won. And that is the end of Season 2 of The Twilight Zone. And now it's time for things we noticed and Easter eggs. This episode marks the return of the Canimets from the classic episode To Serve Man, and that eerie tune you heard throughout the episode is a nod to the score from the original Twilight Zone series.
they go a little crazy on the Stanley Kubrick references. There is the Eye Wide Shut VR sex device, which is a reference to Eyes Wide Shut, and the password is Fidelio, which is the password to get into the orgy scene in Eyes Wide Shut. Then the second glaring Stanley Kubrick reference is the baby monitor is a refabrication of the HAL 9000 computer eye from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Now, in the classic episode To Serve Man, the book they give to humans to decode turns out to be a cookbook.
It's a cookbook!
And sure enough, the cookbook on Janet's counter is To Serve Man. Also, the language on the egg fulfillment card is in the Canaanite language, and the card's address is listed as being on Maple Street, which is a nod to the classic episode The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. And also, there's a moment that mirrors the To Serve Man episode where Janet is on the ship. Just like Michael Chambers, she asks, what time is it back on Earth? That's cool. That's neat. It's a little nod. Now, if you're paying close attention to Janet's phone, one of the apps is named Watching, and the logo is an eye. This is a nod to the always watching Twilight Zone eye, and it's also just probably a nod to the CBS logo.
In the fourth part of the episode, when Janet is first on the ship and she's sort of talking about herself, she says that when she was a little girl, she got lost in an amusement park for 2 hours. This could be a nod by the writers to Jordan Peele's 2019 film Us.
I think it is. I'm going to say it is. I think that was a little... They just try to slip that in there. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Writer and director of the episode Osgood Perkins, the son of Psycho star Anthony Perkins, can be seen as the second Canaanite alien when the trio of Canaanites all meet to discuss how they're going to take care of Janet. Now, the other Canaanites are played by Star Trek and Twilight Zone alum, the great George Takei, and longtime voice actor Kirk Thornton.
Finally, it seems the Canaanites had help in the plan of world domination. At the end of the episode, we find out that the front company selling these eggs is Whipple, which is a nod to the classic episode The Brain Center at Whipple's, and also a reference to all of the moments of the Whipple company appearing throughout the last 2 seasons.
Okay, let's do overall thoughts now, Ryan. I'll start it off and say I think this is the standout episode of the entire run of Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone so far. Osgood Perkins, writer-director, great job. His vision, I think, more than any other director-writer. Actually, you know what, I will say as well, we do have a little bit, Glenn Morgan as well can stand out in this as well. You can tell a Glenn Morgan episode when just from the beginning. But with that said, I think really this one stands out as more of the auteur vibe than anything else we've seen this season so far. There was moments though also in Untrodden that I loved, but for something about this episode I'm gonna remember for a very long time, and just because of how well it links up sadly with 2020. Now with that said, I just love the commercials. I love how the commercials were played to the parody. They were pretty damn spot on, and just how people again in general were just, you know, hey, for waiting for the next big thing, no matter what it is, they just wanted the next big thing, and how everyone's talking about it reminded me of the classic episode To Serve Man, where everyone's just waiting in line and talking about the spaceship and where they're going, and I've heard all these things about, you know, the planet and what's so great about it, even though they have no clue what they're about to experience on this ship, and that they're just going to end up dinner. Love it. And in the closing sequence, when Janet decides to just give in and take her egg, even the aliens have warned her already that the product is designed to kill her and she'll just be safe on the ship. This is extremely 2020. Everyone's going back out and shopping even though the world around you is crumbling and it's not safe to go out yet. All right, I can't think of anything that happened this year that's like that.
For all those going out each day, doing what they can, we're here.
It's a pretty excellent conclusion to a pretty awesome season. Although I have to admit, this one did leave me feeling a little exhausted. And, you know, maybe it's because, we watched it as like a pre-screener before the season, and then then we went back to rewatch it so that we could cover everything in sequence. So it was like maybe I watched it enough times, or maybe I was just watching too much Twilight Zone and I was overwhelmed. But I felt a little bit exhausted. It just felt to me like this one was fitting too many different angles into one story. On the other hand, I appreciate that this has a little bit of everything. In that way, it wraps up the season relatively succinctly by revisiting or reimagining beats from along the way. Season 1's super meta finale was much more up my alley and made me feel good exiting the first run. And whereas you might also like summarizes the season past, Blurry Man expanded the premiere season's footprint and firmly planted the Peele era's flag on the Twilight Zone hill. So as you can see, I'm pretty conflicted. Like, you know, even just going through doing this breakdown, I appreciate the episode more. I think it's super good. But I still feel it's like one note too many. It's like a dish that has too many ingredients. It's still solid. It's still a perfect choice for the finale.
Yeah.
And it leaves me wanting more. I want another season. I hope we get another season.
I think we will. I'm assuming we're probably at least going to get a third season here. Now, with that said, everyone let us know what you thought of this episode and the season, I guess, as a whole in the comment section down below. And what was your favorite episode? My favorite episode, it's a tie, honestly, between this and Untrodden. I loved Untrodden just for the set design, too. It's so good. But with this one, the messaging, I think it was just so on point, and just it's crazy how well it matches up with 2020. So this one's going to be remembered for a very long time, in my opinion.
Okay, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already to come back and see more of us when there's another season down the road.
Until then, everyone stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.